Rouhani has the same network as Candace Owens. So you're not going to hear this from anyone else, and you're not going to get anyone come up with this. Ladies and gentlemen, Charlie Kirk's killer.
We're not counting gang violence.
Oh my God. Go run!
And all of our tech companies are being infiltrated by Israeli military intelligence. So check this out.
The furry is on the stand. I understand in Utah law, we're going to ask some questions, basically. Let's ask very simple questions, which is the gaslighting. That's slapping us in the face and going, I didn't slap you. Slapping us in the face, I didn't slap you. Imagine this whole charade. Imagine like a Steve Bannon who I'm watching here, or any commentator is going to sit there and they're going to look you in the eye. They're going to look you in the eye and they're going to go, did you know that little furry tranny trans rage person shot Charlie Kirk in the neck with a 30-06? They're going to look you in the eye and they're going to maintain that narrative. That takes some doing. That really takes some doing. And of course, we then get into the picture of, well, who benefited from the shooting? Well, clearly Israel never benefited. And I've said to people before, Israel did not organize this killing. I put in my original video, insinuated, well, maybe, but here's the most likely people. And we'll talk about that in a minute. Just ask yourself, has Israel benefited from the murder of Charlie Kirk? He's dead. There's nothing wrong with speculating that he's alive. They are fully capable of pulling that off. You're in Mormon country. Those kids will do whatever they're told. The witnesses will do whatever they're told. They are more than capable of pulling up a fake assassination. More than capable. Without question. But no, he's dead. That is the most likely explanation when you look at all the evidence, the shooting, how he was shot, his shirt, all the other stuff. They've done 1,000 videos on it. It's some of them very, very well done. Was it an explosive charge in a mic? It's not impossible. It's definitely not impossible. My personal theory, not that I'm a big badass gunman. I have fired a fair few firearms, more than the average Australian, but I'm a Gen Xer, including handguns, but certainly not a firearms expert. In fact, not even as expert as the average 16-year-old farm kid in America, where shooting is nothing. No, it's just every day, probably firing semi-automatic assault rifles. But in Australia, we don't get those opportunities. So, but I do know a little bit about firearms and ballistics out of a genuine lifelong interest in ballistics and sending things at rapid speed downrange. And you don't have to tell anybody who's ever fired a firearm, when you have a 308 or 30-06 actually, which is even bigger, at that distance, 150 yards, you don't leave a little hole in the neck. You're going to have the whole neck expand with a supersonic shockwave, and you're going to literally it's not going to take his head off, but it's going to chunk. It's going to be very nasty. So we just stop there. That's all we have to do. So we know it's bullshit. It makes the magic bullet theory with JFK look perfectly plausible. So why are they going through this charade? And they are putting this charade on the American public. And what is the effect of this charade that they're doing? It just gets you down to the point where you realize it's like 9/11 or anything that's going on, is that when you live in a society where you can just keep gaslighting someone and just keep getting away with it, and then gaslight them again and get away with it, and gaslight them again and get away with it, you start to go, okay, we understand you're a psychopath. You're going to do what you're going to do. Let's now look at the public. There's something very wrong with people that is beyond normal. We're now into a place where the population clearly has no interest in living. It has no interest in reality. And right now, a large portion of the US public is happy with this narrative. At least 50% of the US public is happy with this narrative. That is frightening when I see I'm actually finding it, I almost want to burst into tears that I even thought I should make a video and state what is so bleeding obvious. What's the effect it's having on me, a politically astute person? How do I get out of this? How do I get money? How the hell do I just never set on foot online again? I just want out. And that is the effect this stuff has on me. It totally demoralizes me.
The underlying aim, Surkov said, was not to win the war, but to use the conflict to create a constant state of destabilized perception in order to manage and control.
It totally demoralizes me when you sit here and you just look around and think, are these hairless apes really going to swallow this crap? And even the hairless apes who say, I'm red-pilled, I know what's going on. Then you ask the hairless ape, okay, what are you going to do about it? Oh, I'm just going to sell some coffee mugs on YouTube.
And all of our tech companies are being infiltrated by Israeli military intelligence. So check this out.
And that's further demoralizing. And you ask people, what's your actual plan of action besides selling swag and merch? And they don't have a plan. That therefore also demoralizes. So we're probably all in the same boat where you just want to switch off now and just try to get a sense of humor, a sense of irony. But they're all looking, including Steve Bannon. See, this also said, I want to take a team and go, this team's not perfect, but it'll take us somewhere. This train is not perfect, but it will get us to a point over here. We get on this train. And you watch the activities of Donald Trump. You watch the activities of all the people around them, and they are engaging in such fraudulent, crass, criminal activities. And then their answer is, well, at least we're getting the country back on track. Look at the other team. And that's basically the standard. We will engage in every bit of criminal activity as possible. And when you catch us or when we do it in full view, we will go, yeah, but look what they're doing. And that's what we have. That is very demoralizing. And then I'm supposed to say, get on this train. And I was like, oh, demoralizing is the word. And they go, yes, it is demoralizing. That is correct. The thought that this is a grand plan may escape some people, but I do believe it is. I do believe they know exactly what they're doing. This is science, and they are deliberately just going to keep this stuff going. Just play it through, move into a blockade of Taiwan, news cycle, pushing along. But let's ask the question of the furry boy, tranny boy, why doesn't he just come forward? He could get off immediately, I'm pretty confident, by just saying, asking this one simple question, which is a 30-06 could not possibly do that little damage. So you can let me go now. And that would pretty much be it, wouldn't it? Wouldn't it?
Yes, at that moment, I realized, because it was direct line of sight, plus the disturbance.
This is a cop that jumped up on the roof and saw the imprint of someone's body in the gravel.
In the gravel, or I could see somebody lay down in a prone position or a sniper position, and asked dispatch to get on the then I realized that we probably didn't have our shooter in custody.
They had arrested someone very close in time, and they realized this is not the person. And so he documented with photographs the gravel. He said he could see an arm, two arms that were there, indentations in the gravel, and then the state forensics photographer came later that night and took some more pictures. Then it came to the point there were so many videos because there was a whole crowd shooting. Right. So they started to have need to play the videos of the actual shot. Okay. And they were so graphic, the judge did not allow the courtroom to see them, but the judge alone watched the videos. And the first one was that shot. We believe it was a close-up. And I want you to watch the judge, because he had trouble watching this video. Oof. As the fact finder in this preliminary hearing. He just flinches. You can.
Do you know anything about courts and courtrooms? The fact that a judge would go, oh, a red dot and maybe a little bit of blood coming out. Oh, he's seen decomposing bodies, raped and murdered children and God knows what else, but he's deeply concerned. Oh, hasn't he watched a snuff film on Telegram in Ukraine? But the melodrama, no wonder people are saying this is completely rigged, he's not dead and it's all a joke. Who wouldn't? Who wouldn't given this melodrama? But let's keep moving along.
See him flinch right there when he watches it. His eyes sort of moved. And the courtroom was in silence. Acc Kirk, of course, up and left before that was even played in the courtroom. But today, this is set to continue all week. There are seven charges here, and the defense objected to everything. I mean, they're at the top of their game, too, objecting to everything. Foundational, deprives them of a right trial, unfair, unconstitutional hearsay. So they're building their record, but they will ask for this entire case to be dismissed. All 7 counts. That's their job in this.
Well, that would be pretty easy, actually, because you know what you do. what you do is you just get up and you take out with a firearms expert and you show what a 30-06 does to a carcass or to a model of a human head. And that would be the end of it. The jury would go, well, he couldn't possibly have fired that shot. And you could line up 50,000 firearms experts and they're just going to get up on the stand saying, horse pucky, a 30-06 did not do this. But the defense is not going to do that, obviously, are they? They're not going to do that. So, here we sit brokenhearted, paid a penny and only farted. I mean, the absurdity of it all. But I'm talking about it, so I guess the job is done. And Steve Bannon's going to put that up and look straight into the camera. He's not going to address the fact that everyone knows the damage couldn't be done. Then Tucker Carlson's going to say, well, it's very strange. Maybe if the CIA released the files, we could find out who shot Charlie Kirk, just like he said with the 9/11. If only the CIA would release the files. And then Candace Owens is going to come and poke fun at it all well, and you can't help but agree with her. And then she's as dodgy as a box of socks. And you have to warn socks, very smelly. She's basically married into Canary Wharf, the London central banker crowd, and literally the highest society of the UK, right into the best friends of Lord Jacob Rothschild. So what the hell do you do with Candace Owens? Can you see how tumultuously turned around this is? So you ask yourself, well, who's benefited from this? Well, the anti-Israel crowd within the United States has definitely benefited. And I insinuate in the video I make, and I'll pop that up right now. Let's pop in and see who killed Charlie Kirk.
And all of our tech companies are being infiltrated by Israeli military intelligence. So check this out.
The NATO intelligence wet operations guy, psychological operations guy.
Okay, now when you refer to wet operations, WET, does that stand for something?
Yes, it means murder, assassinations groups. NATO has a group of assassins and psychological operations specialists who work in combined operations to destroy targets.
The Israelis train with the SEALs. They do a lot of wet ops murders over here.
I would just like to take a few minutes as the sheriff to express my gratitude for everybody who has played a part in this investigation.
An icon is dead. A young man who built an $80 million a year empire is dead. A father of two with an $80 million empire forgets to have security and who knows, maybe even a drone looking at rooftops, after that other event.
What happened?
Yes, he was hit by a piece of glass. So with that in mind, Lee knew some of the people up there in Phoenix, Arizona, because that's where Lee lives. And Lee asked them about the drone. And Charlie's security team told Lee to his face, we wanted to put the drone up and the police and the university staff refused to let us do it. The police told us that was covered. Fact, from Lee Levina. Now that's the first half, but there's a second half to this where I insinuate Bibi, because everyone wanted to hear that Bibi did it. I didn't believe it after, of course, at first I went, oh yeah, we know who that's probably going to be. But after thinking about it a couple of days, no, this is not Israel. There may have been Israeli citizens or Russian, dual national Israeli-Russian citizens and Americans involved. But how the hell has Israel benefited from this? I'll explain. I mean, before getting on, I poke fun at the whole Charlie Kirk thing where someone says, there are 57 different sexes, and Charlie goes, no, there's not, there's only two, and the sun rises in the east and sets in the west, and everyone goes, amazing, Charlie Kirk's this great debater. It's just so contrived, the whole thing. I never heard of him until 2018. I watched 2 minutes and just went, what a driveling bunch of Zio, private schlocking, I love Israel half-wits, and I'd never even thought of him again. And then I saw him and, oh, what a shame, happened to the nicest guy. Remember, this is the guy this is the guy that loves Jesus, right? And it took till February, March 2024 before he thought that Gaza might be a bit of a genocide, where they're all posting on TikTok and Instagram, we're killing all the kids and we're loving it, and the rabbis are calling for the slaughter. And then suddenly he decided, well, maybe I'm not all for this, because the data analytics weren't looking good when China released TikTok. Yeah. And then you can start linking Charlie Kirk in with City of London, good old Candace Owens, marries the gay boyfriend whose father, Lord Farmer, is best friends with Lord Jacob Rothschild and a close associate of the King of England, King Charles. And then you begin to understand the factors they knew when the huge fight that was on, all the anti-European Union rhetoric coming out of Donald Trump's mouth, coming out of J.D. Vance's mouth, coming out of Marco Rubio's mouth, coming out of Pete Hegseth's mouth. Then you see them, they're going to take out Iran. And all the panic sets in. So who benefited from the assassination of Charlie Kirk? How about City of London? How about the globalist handlers of Iran itself, which has now been taken out? Now the US sits on the Straits of Hormuz going, oh no, they might fire missiles at ships. Poor China and Europe won't get their oil and gas. Listen to this drivel. Provided the operation with both the resources for rapid expansion and the necessary cover to obscure the identities of its principal architects. Kirk's personal compensation, which grew from a modest initial salary of around $27,000 per year to over $300,000 annually, supplemented by a multi-million-dollar real estate portfolio, including properties in Arizona and Florida.
Zygote, and like a mother going to Planned Parenthood and killing the fetus in her womb.
That was actually the best point somebody made.
It's not about the cells. It's not about... No, I'm speaking.
So the point I try to make all along is let's talk about Wall Street bankers stealing from ordinary people. Let's talk about all the critical infrastructure. Let's talk about all these huge issues. Let's talk about paperless ballots. Let's talk about, who did 9/11. Let's talk about Wall Street justice for 2008 and outright robbery from Trump's friends. Let's talk about a whole range of issues, the Pentagon order. But no, they got a bunch of teenage half-wits with Soros funding one side and then the Kissinger and Associates, a pin-up boy gang running the other. And they're going to have a debate over whether a man's got a pee-pee or a girl's got a vagina. And this is the level of the discourse. And you can see the popular culture subversion going on here. Let's not talk about these big issues. Let's talk about this bullshit, right-left bullshit. Yeah, let's talk about that. They're all getting funded by the same damn team. And what I insinuate in the second half is, let's now get into the juicy bit, where I insinuate that US elites, the Skull and Bones crew, Steve Bannon's crew, and you're thinking, oh, come on, you can't involve Steve Bannon in this, Office of Naval Intelligence. They'll all stick together like glue at the end of the day. You've seen how anti-Israel Bannon is now. Hardcore. Have you seen him on Politico, what he said? Whoa! Have you seen what Rahm Emanuel said on Politico? Rahm Emanuel's literally there mouthing the same basic rhetoric as Steve Bannon, saying there will be no greater Israel and Israel is finished and they're going to do as they're told. Oh, Rahm covering his ass. Very nice, Rahm. Rahm doesn't want to run to Highgate. He doesn't want to run to his apartment next to Arnold Milchan in London. But anyway, sorry, am I looking at the wrong camera again? Apologies. The assassination of a beloved conservative youth leader creates a massive political and emotional opening by subtly seeding the narrative through controlled alt-media channels that foreign intelligence was involved. The US elites can build a public consensus for a crackdown that may well be necessary. We'll have to wait and see. Please, I'm not asking you to trust the plan. I'm just asking you to think a little differently. The known vulnerabilities detailed in documents like the UNHCR application, espionage, technology, theft, and cyber backdoors can now be brought into the public discourse, not as abstract threats, but as potential motives for the murder of an American patriot. Kirk's sacrifice becomes the bloody shirt that can be waved to rally the nation for a necessary covert war over its technological sovereignty, a war that could not have been initiated without such a powerful catalyst. Meaning blaming Israel. I don't believe Israel did it. There may be Israeli operatives, but Likud, Netanyahu did not do that up. There's not a snowball's chance in hell. They went, yeah, this will work for us. No. But it's working for someone else. The point I'm trying to make here is who benefits? Key bono, first question. Certainly not Israel. But what you are getting now is US elites have really got a narrative out there that's gone anti-Israel. And you see Bannon, just taking Bannon as an example, as a mainstream intelligence-affiliated operator, alt-media, going after Israel on a whole host of things. This gives leverage. However, at the time, I never considered this, but now having watched Iran, the Straits of Hormuz, I want you to imagine this. It was always going to be a takedown of Iran. I'm on the record 1,000 times. I went to Iran, 2016, I walked out. I walked out of there with $500 in my pocket. I'm in the air. This is Brendon O'Connell, the bell tower boy, in Tehran, the head of the funeral procession for former President Mr. Rafsanjani. And I asked them for money and said, I can't stay here. You're not going to do what I ask. You're trying to get me to do a travel show. I thought we were going to take on Israel. You know, your sworn enemy, which you don't seem to want to talk too much about. And when I walked out of there, it was obvious what Iran was. When you have Rouhani, the president, Zarif, who's still there in power, advising Pezeshkian, the current president, and they're all at Chatham House hanging with John Kerry and strong links into the very same networks as Candace Owens. Rouhani has the same network as Candace Owens. So you're not going to hear this from anyone else, and you're not going to get anyone come up with this. There's Lord Farmer. This guy's deeply in with the Chatham House crew. He's deeply in with the City of London, the metal traders and the Chinese Communist Party. He's specialised with his company, Red Kite. That's the gay boyfriend of Candace Owens, the husband, the gay guy that got married. That's his father. And he's there with King Charles and Lord Jacob Rothschild. And apparently the entire internet is going to pretend this isn't a fact. But I Googled it in 30 seconds. 30 seconds. Literally, it took me 30 seconds. So you can see where this is going. Taking down Iran, her and Tucker Carlson. Oh, leave Iran alone. Why are you attacking Iran? Oh, Israel, boo, Israel. Who are they protecting? They're protecting a globalist asset. And you can link Candace Owens directly to that. You can link Tucker Carlson received all his initial funding with his 27 staff for the Tucker Carlson network from Rebecca Mercer, Cambridge Analytica, right in there with good old City of London, SCL Group, and NATO. And people can't seem to make any connections. And let me tell you, the more I push this, the lower my money goes, 200, 300, 400 down. But I don't know why, I kind of like it. It's like, yes, I'm on the right path. Let's not push that one too far, shall we? So imagine the fact that you can start linking Candace Owens, and she's the number one big star pushing the Charlie Kirk thing. Do you remember how long she went before she mentioned the 30-06 again? And I even said, sometimes I wonder whether she's watching, because I said, hey, don't you remember the 30-06? Look, no one will talk to her anymore. Nobody. Where's Anne Carroll gone? Where's the Green Brave? They're just out of it now, because they've worked out that there's something very wrong with Candace Owens. She's the one that advised Charlie Kirk on women. She was the one helping hook him up with Erica Kirk. So once you see at the beginning of this year, when they knew the attack on their globalist asset Iran was going to start, which was used to threaten Saudi and the UAE and the Sunni Arab world, so they would be forced into signing a deal with Israel because of the hadiths, which said that 70,000 Jews from Isfahan and the Iranians were being let directly into the region by Kissinger and Associates and Paul Bremer. And Hegseth, to his credit, came out and said, Iran is not Iraq and we don't have Paul Bremer on the team. That was a profound statement, and nobody even talks about it. I can't find a single soul. I've used AI, Perplexity, and Gemini, and I can't find a single soul noticing anything like this. But now you get it, Candace Owens. So who's really benefits? Now I've moved away from US elites and said, well, it looks like something that City of London would do, because now it's so in chaos. What's the City of London? We want control of Israel. We want control of the Middle East. Break off US public opinion. Remember, China and Russia on the record as moving into the Middle East. They were going to literally take it over. That was the plan under Donald Trump, Mark I, when Kissinger was advising. That all ended under Pompeo and Mattis. And now we've got what we've got. The US taking over the world. King Charles comes early in the year. You know what he was asking for? Can I please have a role in the Middle East? Can I please have a role in the Middle East? They also want all the Saudi money still kept in their banks. They were worried about the London banks. That's what they came over for. Carney is running around with Keir Starmer, the Fabian socialist, wet rag, Chatham House boy, is running to China in January 2026, because they knew in February 28th there was going to be an attack. They knew the US was going to take out their asset, and they were running around in a tizzy. Now do you see why City of London would benefit so greatly by the assassination of Charlie Kirk, to blame it on Likud? I mean, I would love to blame it on Bibi and Likud. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? I would love to blame that piece of shit. Most of you people are new arrivals. I've been doing this for over 30 years. 30 freaking years. Deeply involved in this whole movement. Who benefits? City of London benefits, the EU benefits, because the EU was literally running directly under Evelyn and David de Rothschild out of the French, German and Swiss banks. They were running Iran. They didn't use US dollars. They used euros. They weren't just shipping oil to China. They were shipping oil up into Germany every week. 500 million euros a week. Every week it went up. Half a bit. I thought there were sanctions. And there's Germany buying their oil. And then the UK, MI5, MI6 were complaining about the EU, France, Germany, and Switzerland for all their banks trying to avoid sanctions. So you can start to see who benefited from the death of Charlie Kirk, who is trying to benefit or get leverage from that murder. And there's Candace Owens right at the tip of the spear. Right at the tip of the spear. She's looking a little, I can see the difference in her tone now. Did it not ever occur to her in 2018 that, boy, I wonder if anyone's going to notice my blatantly, overtly homosexual husband? He doesn't like women. He's been ordered to marry her and produce children. We presume he put it in her vagina to produce the child. He's a homosexual and he likes younger men. No allegations about little boys and pedophilia, but he definitely likes the 19-year-old, 20-year-olds, 18-year-olds. He likes them younger. He is a blatant, out-and-out homosexual who has been forced into a marriage. It's part of the deal. And the fact that the entire internet can't say, and I'm begging you to please tell me if anyone is talking about this. Anybody, because you will really open up and see the network, which includes Whitney Webb. Good old Whitney. Russell Brand, Jimmy Goldsmith. If you haven't, I put this in a dozen videos. I might have to make another playlist. But you can begin to see that she's sitting right there to the main beneficiaries. And you see from that Keir Starmer and Mark Carney coming into China and running around and saying, if we don't get together, we're going to be on the menu. This is the last desperate gasps you'll see these things unfolding to try and stop the US local nationalist elites taking over the world for good or ill. And we're 50-50 at the moment for good or ill. That's all I have to say about the circus show. But the fact that they don't feel it's necessary at all to come up with anything decent, like 9/11. I mean, you know, Muhammad Atta's passport in the rubble, they didn't even try. And then they opened the trunk of their car that was left at the airport, and it's how to fly a 767 in 5 easy lessons. The narrative that they were, 40 feet off the ground at 500 or 480 knots in a 767, when you can talk to Flight Captain Dan Hanley, who flies 767s and 777s, and says it's impossible. Pilots came out of the woodwork. It is impossible to fly at that anywhere near that speed. That speed, let alone, you can't even fly a Cessna 172. It doesn't happen, ever. But they don't even feel like trying, and their view is, I don't know, I'm not in their heads. I don't know what I'm a bit of a perfectionist, moon in Virgo. I'd want to do a very perfect operation. And they just say, throw the passport in the rubble. Oh, look, I found a passport. And then, I would go, no one's going to believe that. No, yes, they will. But we're 25 years on from 9/11 and they're still pushing the same horseshit. So, but there you go. In conclusion, there's we've got a patsy who's the psychology of him might be he's liking the attention. You'd be surprised. Adam McHale was convicted of shooting in cold blood 2 drug dealers and criminal informants for the Australian Federal Police. I shared a cell with him. In fact, we played Xbox together. You can have an Xbox in jail if you're a good part of the reward system in there. And, of course, Adam didn't shoot anyone. His old man did. Frank did. I like Frank. And Frank McHale shot them both. And but Adam was actually happy to be in jail. And I said, why do you keep doing this, Adam, telling people you knocked all their teeth out and cut their hands off and did all this stuff when you did none of that? Stop saying that sort of stuff. How do you think you're ever going to get out of here? Because it was what they knew that Frank did the shooting. They were. It's a long story. The cops were corrupt. The cops planted evidence. They mishandled the case so badly. There are intimate details in Frank and Adam McHale killing the husband and wife drug dealer criminal informant team. It was actually a very big case in Western Australia in 2011. I was right there in the cells when their guilty conviction came down. And Frank was upset because he actually told me that night, well, yeah, I shot him. And they knew that. But he told the police 2 weeks before, on the record, and it's in the transcript because I read the transcript. The police were on the stand and the defense said, did Mr. McHale... No, the prosecutor was using the fact that Frank had told the cop, your criminal informant is selling heroin to my son, and if he doesn't stop, I'm going to shoot him. I'll deal with him. They then went out and said that Frank McHale, they were shot for money, and it was bullshit. The case is so convoluted. It involved GPS data location with no warrant, so much so that the GPS company in the Netherlands flew a team down because they shouldn't have handed over the decrypted data. It was a fascinating case. But the fact was that Adam was very happy to be in jail. He actually said to me, Brendon, at least in here I am somebody. And I just went, you want to spend the next 30 plus years before you're even eligible for parole? So there's some very weird psychology with people. You would be surprised that the fairy would sit there pretending he's a hero. You'd be very surprised. But the fact remains this is the easiest case on earth to get off. You just shoot a dummy with a 30-06 and tell the jury it is impossible. It's not the same rifle. That would be the end of the case. It'd be the end. They'd have to rig the jury, which they do. So, I mean, I'm all for simple questions. We all know the bullshit of October 7, 2023. They just jumped the fence and suddenly they were there. We know the bullshit of 9/11, the bullshit of JFK, the never-ending bullshit of these operations. That's why I always like to remind people about Kay Griggs, and the fact that just the anti-Israel venom that inevitably came out of that event. Does anyone seriously think the Israelis or Bibi and Likud and his Israeli-Russian masters went, yeah, this will be good for Israel? But when you look at it from terms of Israeli-Russian City of London masters, then it begins to make sense to break off US general public opinion from Israel, which is actually working. But it's not going to work, but it's giving leverage to the other side to get better deals so they can get a seat at the table. But really, when we look, that's not even working. But this is the way these operations are run. I've watched a lot of spy movies. And if you want to understand how the spies work, watch a lot of spy movies. Watch a lot of documentaries. You can see, whenever you see that narrative just burst onto the scene and run, right? And it just keeps maintaining the run for month after month after month. You know that's an official narrative somebody wants out there. They want that narrative out there. Because I've seen them shut down narratives so fast, it'll make your head spin. Look how no one can seem to go after Candace Owens. 2018, they've had since 2018 to link her husband, George Farmer, with Lord Michael Farmer, who is directly linked in with Lord Jacob Rothschild and King Charles himself. That is the family network that Candace Owens is now married into since 2018. I rest my case. What a show, ladies and gentlemen. Like I said, somebody asked the defense attorneys, just get an expert shooter and there you go. 30-06, take your head off. So clearly it wasn't a 30-06. If I was going to have a guess, I know people, I've lived in Perth. You know what's in Perth, Western Australia? SAS Campbell Barracks, Special Forces Base. I knew tons of those people. They'll tell you, just point, shoot training. Thousands of rounds in the kill house. Thousands of rounds. Just thousands, point, shoot, reflex shooting. Thousands upon thousands of rounds. Somebody could practice for a couple of weeks with a little 32, hold it down by their waist. They could practice on dummies, and they could have shot him straight in the neck with a little 32 from the front. Could have been as easy and as simple as that. We could get convoluted if you want. The microphone, all of that stuff's kind of possible. A shot was speculated from the top coming down, entering in near his ear, coming out through his neck. It all makes sense, but you know, how do you see him through the cover? The point is, we know it wasn't a 30-06, so why get lost in the detail? It's a bullshit story. The question is, why? As Jim Garrison is asked by X, played by Donald Sutherland. That's Colonel Fletcher Prouty. He's playing Colonel Fletcher Prouty. We get caught in the details. Why was he killed? That is the question. Why was Charlie Kirk killed? Who benefited? Who could cover it up? Pretty simple. Who's benefiting? Ladies and gentlemen, we'll talk again real soon.
What is our common bond truly? Freedom. Freedom. Without freedom, you can't be a Christian no matter what denomination you belong to. You can't be a Buddhist. You can't own a donut shop. You can't drive from here to Oregon. You can't be an American because that's what it's all about, and that's the only thing that it's all about. Nothing else. Nothing else. It's about freedom. Only freedom.